Today we are going to listen to a talk by Brother Saleem Chagtai. And Brother Saleem is a lecturer for IERA, and he's also the director of the Charity Institute. Brother Saleem has a rich background in Islamic knowledge, including Islamic creed, principles of Islamic jurisprudence, and principles of interpreting the Quran. Now, as for today's talk, it is indeed a very interesting topic. Because I'm quite certain that at one point of your life, you would have wondered, why were you born? What is the wisdom behind the creation of mankind and the universe? Inshallah, these are the few among the many questions that will be answered in the talk later on. So, the talk will last for about 45 minutes, and it will be followed by 15 minutes of public questions. So in these 15 minutes, brothers and sisters, feel free to put up your hands to ask questions. After that, for 60 minutes, there will be a private question and answer session where you can meet our speaker today in private and ask your questions. So, without further ado, I would like to invite Brother Saleem to present his talk.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I began in the name of God, who is the most merciful, and I invoked the heavenly remembrance upon His final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This week is actually a tremendous opportunity for all of you. And I'm privileged to have the opportunity to start this week, actually. Because really, this is the opportunity for us to connect as human beings. And if we connect as human beings, this will lead to trust. And from trust, you begin any relationship. As you know, trust or lack of trust can lead to breakdown in relationships, whether it's with your family, whether it's with spouses, and even in society. That's why we have tensions in societies. That's why we have many societies where if a particular group is being demonized or being misunderstood, it leads to this tremendous tension. And this tension doesn't actually benefit anybody except those people who maybe sought to create it in the first place. And believe it or not, brothers and sisters and friends, there's a lot of people who have a lot to benefit from people in general, no matter what background they're from, connecting with each other. And really, this may seem very abstract, but again, the title of tonight's talk, it's a title, Purpose of Life, and then the subtitle is, what is the Muslim's purpose of life? But actually, that's not my subtitle, and I would never have recommended that. Because really, rather than learning about what the Muslim is supposed to do, and then you come to this talk and you see us almost like an exhibition or maybe like a museum artifact. Why don't we think from a human perspective, what are we all meant to be doing in life? What is our ultimate purpose? Because everybody, no matter what walk of life you come from, no matter which country you come from, no matter what color your skin is, you have, without a doubt, at one point or other in your life, thought about the answers to 3 fundamental questions. Not necessarily all together in one go, but at various points in your life. And those questions are this. 1, as the sister alluded to, 1, where have I come from as human beings? Where have we come from as mankind? 2, what am I meant to be doing on this planet? What is my purpose? And 3, what's after this? Where do we go from here? What happens after my death? And as the famous saying is, the only 2 certain things are death and taxes. But there are a few other things as well, which inshallah we should go through today. Now, how do we answer these questions? Because I'm sure you'll agree that these are the most fundamental questions you can ask. There's nothing more important than getting the answers to these questions. because they'll dictate the way you live your life and the way you behave as a person, and will dictate how you make your mark on this world. And if you are so unfortunate enough to actually think, do I have to answer these questions? Is it important to answer these questions? Or really don't really want to be thinking about these questions because maybe they scare you, the answers, or the potential answers, or the impact they'll have on your life, then it's not going to go away. These questions are not going to go away. You have to answer these questions. And in fact, the reason why you do not have peace of mind is because you haven't answered those questions. That's why you may be unhappy. That's why maybe things are not going right in your life. This is why you are actually, maybe there's some instability. Maybe there's some confusion. Maybe there's a whole host of emotions. So how do we answer these questions? And I'm going to say something which, again, you may agree or disagree with, and again, we can explore this in the question and answer session, or even privately afterwards. I will say that science will never be able to answer those questions. Science can't answer those questions. Science was never meant to answer those questions. All science is meant to do is meant to answer the questions that relate to things that can be seen, heard, smelled, touched, and felt. 5 senses. That's all science is meant to do. That's why if you go to Cambridge University and you choose to study physics, chemistry, or biology, you will undertake a degree in natural sciences. You will actually not do a degree in science. Because science, potentially maybe because in Arabic, we call it ilm. Correct? Ala? We say science is ilm. And ilm means knowledge. We don't have this differentiation. In other words, knowledge. All knowledge. Whether that be aspects of philosophy, whether it be aspects of astronomy, whether it be aspects of physics, chemistry, mathematics, anatomy, psychology, you name it, it will all come under that. It will come under the concept of ilm, knowledge. But you see, science cannot measure love. It cannot measure hate. It cannot measure anger. It can measure certain activity in the brain, which may correspond to these phenomena and these emotions, but ultimately, it won't be able to answer those 3 fundamental questions. And that seems to be patently clear. Also, science can't really prove to me that China exists. I've never been to China. I have not smelled China. I've smelled Chinese food. But that could be a trick. It could be from Taiwan. Or it could be from Malaysia, and you're just pretending it's Chinese. But that's how absurd science is. It's not, I have not tested it. I have not put a hypothesis to say China must not exist and therefore I have to prove it right or wrong. No. However, I accept it. Why do I accept it? Because for me, my logic dictates that it is impossible for all the different people that I've met in my life who talked about China, whether it be on the news, whether it be in the university, whether it be at work or whatever, that I cannot believe that they all came together to trick me into believing there's a country called China. And if it is a trick, then it's a very good trick, and I have to give a lot of gratitude to that. But it's impossible. The same way you've not seen your 6th generation grandparents, ancestors. You believe they exist because you are evidence of that. So why am I talking about this? The reason why is because the purpose of life and the purpose of your life has to be as accessible and has to be as easy for anybody to understand as it is and using the same logic and the same principles that you use when you go to the local supermarket to choose the cheapest and best orange juice to buy. It has to. Because otherwise this means that the purpose of life is only open to the elite, to the intellectuals. And we know what intellectuals will do with things, right? They can hide things. We know the Christian church kept Latin away from the masses and the Bible for centuries from the average person. So that can't be right. So it makes sense that we use basic ration and common sense to come to the fundamental conclusions about man, life, and the universe. And to describe, to understand where have we come from, that has to come into our consciousness. Why? Because we can say and ultimately trace where this glass came from, but we can't trace something more advanced, something more sophisticated, like human beings, where they're from? Absolutely not. And if we were to go with the scientific explanation, which is extremely absurd, but I'm not knocking science for the sake of it. I am an applied mathematician by education. I like to think that what I learned was the language of science. Without mathematics, science cannot communicate its ideas, cannot test its ideas. But for me, philosophically, logically, rationally, the idea that a bunch of molecules came together and a bit of silicon, this is made of glass, silicon came together in the right temperature, in the right settings for millions of years and evolved into this. Nobody would ever accept that. I don't think Richard Dawkins would accept that. Forget million years, let's give him a billion years. Trillion years, quadrillion years. Let's give all the time that you want. Would anybody ever agree that this could have come out of a long process of an atom just coming together and forming this glass? No. Nobody would ever agree to that. They would assume that because it's got form and function, that somebody did not design it. Somebody thought, we need to drink water out of something, out of a vessel. And therefore, they designed and fashioned the glass. We can all agree to that. That's not too difficult to understand. So why is it that when it comes to something more advanced, more complex, more sophisticated, more conscious human beings, why are we willing to accept this argument that we evolved? Or that we came from somewhere without purpose, without design, an accident? Can we accept that? Is that a logically satisfactory conclusion? No, it isn't. And if we accept that we ultimately have, whether it's a long chain process or whatever, that there is ultimately a creator for the whole universe. Because okay, we can argue that whole argument, okay, well, who created that person, who created that person? But ultimately we have to admit there has to be a beginning source. Otherwise, if you think about it, if it goes backwards ad infinitum, nothing would ever be made, would it? It's like the sniper. This is an example used. Imagine if a sniper needs his captain's permission to shoot. But the captain says, no, I need the permission of the general. And then the general says, no, I need the permission of the commander-in-chief. And then that person says, I need the permission. And then it goes on and on and on. No one's going to fire the bullet. It's not going to happen. So nothing is going to be made if there was no original one source. And you've had a hard day of lectures, and it's 6 o'clock, well, I'm sure you can follow this. We're students of the University of Warwick. Of course you can follow this. There is an ultimate source for everything. And it stands to reason that when I got this lovely BlackBerry phone, and I wanted to actually figure out how to use it, that I didn't go and pick up a manual for the iPhone. The lovely people at Research in Motion sent an instruction